Okay, good. Ready? Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody to this council meeting today. It's an important one. We will begin with karakia. Tue ki runga, tue ki raro, tue ki te here tangara, ka rongo te po, ka rongo te ao, rumi hui e taihi e. Welcome, Councillor Laws. Great to have you here as well. And everyone else. Alexa, you're online, and anyone else who's joined us today, whether they be staff, whether they be consultants, or members of the public as well. So the karakia we began with today is one about uniting from different places and spaces as one, listening to your surroundings and coming together. So it's a fitting one for a council as we come together from right across our large region and amazing region, of course, bringing with us our different community backgrounds and experience from our diverse surroundings. So yeah, I think it's just important to remember what we're doing when we're doing that karakia. Okay, we haven't got any apologies today. We have got a public forum today. We have Marnie Prickett, who I've noticed is online with us for the forum. And we've got a big agenda, so I'm keen to get straight into public forum. Marnie, it's great to have you here. If you just want to unmute, you're going to have 5 minutes to address us, and then we can ask questions of clarification. So if you would like to introduce yourself and what you're going to present on, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, kia ora everybody. My name is Marnie Prickett, and thank you very much for giving me 5 minutes at the beginning of as you say, this is an important meeting, important time for the Otago region. And yeah, so I'm going to be speaking on the land and water plan, which is obviously a big part of today's meeting. And I thought I'd start with just giving a bit of background about myself, because that might provide useful context for why I'm thinking about this. So I'm a research fellow at Otago University. I work in the public health department. At the moment, I'm mainly working on drinking water source protection, so thinking about how we can look after the places that we draw our water on and keep them safe and good quality. But my background is in agricultural science and in freshwater ecology. Postgrad was on Molesworth Station looking at their waterways there and their farm systems. I've worked for Landcorp, so a state-owned enterprise farming company, advised government on freshwater policy. And as I say, I'm working in the public health department at the moment. So I'm really thinking about these land and water plans as a really important moment to protect and restore the health of the environment, but also the health of communities over time and people's public health. And there is nothing more certain than the fact that our health, our physical health, our community health over time is really intertwined with the health of our land and our water and our air and our climate. And so that's all to say. That's a sort of big long introduction about why I'm here and why I'm thinking about the land and water plan. And Otago, like all regions of the country, needs a future-proofed land and water plan. And when I think about what future-proofed means, I think about health. And it needs to be a plan that is moving us as communities, as individuals, towards that goal of health. So that means healthy waterways, healthy land, and healthy people. Are people hearing me okay, by the way? Because I'm not getting any sort of feedback from here. Yeah, cool. And what health means doesn't change when the government changes. The direction of travel for health is clear. We rely on the health of our water, and so that's not going to shift when our government changes. And so I'm here to support good governance. Good governance means putting communities in the region on that path to healthy land and water over the coming years. And achieving healthy land and water is that there's no sort of silver bullet to this, and I think that's sometimes something that we forget about as well. Is that there, when we have a problem with water or with land, I think about I think about the cyclone in Tairāwhiti and Hawke's Bay and things. And I also think about Havelock North's Campylobacter outbreak. You know, when we have those big dramatic moments which kind of expose whether or not our systems are healthy, that's our land use systems, but also our sort of human and management and governance systems. When we have those big moments where it's exposed, there isn't something that we can do overnight to fix that. Healthy land use, healthy water, healthy governance looks like putting people all in the same direction, so that all of those, you know, tens of thousands of small decisions and small actions are all adding up to health. We can't just press a button and fix things overnight. And so that is the value of a plan. And I'm sure that I'm sure there's a sense that I'm teaching people to suck eggs at the moment, but I also think it's really worthwhile reiterating that we need to be facing the right direction to get there. And that's the value of a plan. That's the value of good council governance. It puts everybody on the same page, working in that same direction, so that we're not pulling in opposite directions. And even worse, we're not undermining the progress that we're making on achieving health. And I think that's a real risk here for the Otago region if we delay if we put off making this plan. The briefing that your staff gave you is talking about sort of things like ongoing intensification. We know with climate change that kind of standing still is going backwards. So there's a real risk that delay will mean things get worse. And so I also put in there the old expression of those who plan to fail. Those who fail to plan to fail. So if we don't have a good plan, we know that we are inevitably going to go backwards. I'm sort of getting towards the end of my 5 minutes here. And so I just want to say that it's really important for us to think about, you know, there's a lot of talk about what the government might do. And I think that we can kind of predict that a little bit in terms of what a further iteration of the national freshwater policy looks like. And I think that there's not much that they could do that would stop you putting the region on the track with a healthy land and water plan. Delaying and waiting for another iteration of the freshwater policy would really only make sense if you're expecting that the government is going to force you to make weaker plans, so force you to have worse water quality, be not on track for healthy water bodies. It would only make sense if you're expecting that they would that not only would they take away the bottom lines, which I think is something that if reading between the lines of what the government has said, that's kind of what I can see potentially on the horizon, or drastically weakening those bottom lines, that still doesn't stop you from having healthy bottom lines and healthy targets. Just because you make pollution more permissible doesn't mean that you as regional council have to make it more permissible. And because this has been a conversation for 20 years now about the state of our waterways, and the public has been concerned for that long, I don't think it's a reasonable position at this stage to delay and expect that we can continue to degrade water bodies, and that we can just go with unhealthy bottom lines and limits for waterways. I don't think that's a reasonable or responsible position. It's not what good governance looks like to me. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Over 5 minutes, so I just need to round off now. Thanks.
Yep. So so just rounding off, thinking about, you know, that you can lose a lot with slow degradation, and you cannot anticipate potentially those big dramatic events. So thinking about good governance puts us on that path to health, and recognises that disastrous moments can also come. So we need to do that work in advance. And so I guess just to round off, supporting the work that Otago Regional Council has been doing to get to that healthy land and water, and to get on that path with that plan. Waiting 3 more years, I think just suggests that it's a plan to let things get worse. And if health is your goal, we know where we're heading. So my support is for option 1 that's on the table in front of you today. And thank you very much again for giving me the time.
Thanks, Marnie. We haven't got a lot of time for questions, but if there's 1 or 2, then that would be okay. Are there any questions? No questions. Thank you very much for appearing once again. It's really
Thanks,
good.
Everybody.
Public forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we just need to confirm the agenda. We do have a late item, so I'd be seeking somebody to move that the following report be accepted as a late item as a workshop was required to seek councillor direction prior to the drafting of the report, and timing did not allow for inclusion in the public agenda, and it would be item 7.2, Port Letter of Expectations. Somebody care to move that? Councillor Ware, seconded Councillor Mepham, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Now, just in terms of timing today as well, while we're on agenda, note that there are 3 papers today, and the order of the papers would be firstly to seek to exclude the public to consider the recommendation report from the independent panel for the regional policy statement. Sorry, just while we're on that one, we're thinking it would take probably about 2 hours to discuss that one and come through to about 3 o'clock. That's probably important for anyone that's online and wanting to join us for later in the day. It's quite a big paper in its own right. But if you are wanting to join for the second paper, which is the land and water plan, then that would be around 3. Then the third one we've just agreed to. Yep.
But I'd be suggesting we might go into 3 to factor in a break after 2 hours. So
No earlier than 3.
yeah.
Yeah, so we would not start any earlier than 3.
Well, I was
We'd
gonna
have
say
to
no
have a
earlier
wee
than
break
3:15.
so that
So we
it's
can just-
convenient for anyone that's wanting to join us for that land and water one. Then it would be at 3, and we won't start any earlier. Okay, thank you.
So what are we doing? We're going to have the land and water plan issued after 3 o'clock.
Yeah, just makes it easier for anyone that's hanging around. RPS will probably take quite a while. So yeah, anyway, while I am also on the regional policy statement, it is a really important piece of policy guidance that guides not just our council but other councils in our region. So I just wanted to publicly thank some people who have been involved up to this process, whatever happens in our meeting today, which is around considering the recommendations of the independent panel. I just really did want to thank people who have put actually years of effort into this, and there's quite a list. Some of them are actually councillors who've been around this table for a while, but all councillors that have been around this table. The panel, first of all, has been Ron Crosby as the chair, Rauru Kirikiri, iwi nominated independent panellist, Bianca Sullivan, ORC nominated, and Alan Schubert, ORC nominated. What a huge task, and big thanks from our council for the work that they have done. A lot of staff have been involved, but also just wanted to thank Simon Anderson, Thea Sefton, Kate McKinley, Philip Moores, who acted as our hearing administrator originally as well. Thank you to those people. Originally on our staff, we've got Lisa Hawkins, James Adams, Liam Gladding, Kyle Balderston, Peter Stafford, Melanie Hardiman, Rachel Curry, Sandra McIntyre, and Maria Bartlett. And now Fleur Matthews, Kirsten Strauss, James Adams, Caitlin Hazlitt, Jack Kizzle. Consultants, a huge component as well. Felicity Boyd, Hannah Goslin, Liz White, Angela Fenimore, Jackie Todd, Andrew McLaren, Marcus Langman, Kevin Lloyd, and Scott Kelly, and a whole range of other people who have fed into this, to all of the submitters, to everyone that's put a huge amount of effort into this as well. Thanks up to this point as well. Hey, we're going to need to move on to the rest of the agenda, but I just wanted to take the chance to thank people as well.
Can we formally move those? I actually think that they should be done first, and that should be a formal noting of thanks.
Yeah, happy to do that, Kate. Would you like,
Well,
I'm
you
happy,
would-
I'm happy to move
I'm
that
very happy to second
formally,
that.
that we do
Yeah.
formally thank those people, and particularly to the panel as well.
They've done an
Feedback,
outstanding
our
job.
thanks. Yeah, you're happy to second
Yeah.
that? Thank you very much, councillor Wilson. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
That is
Carried.
on something.
Thank you. All right, now, yeah, so we know that we've got two other papers as well as that one, which is Land and Water Regional Plan, and then thirdly, that one we've just added Port Otago Letter of Expectations. We're up to declarations for of interest. So, yep, councillor McCall, would you like to declare something?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest with the discussion around the regional policy statement as I'll submit it, and I'll whilst we're discussing that paper, I'll sit back from the table for the entirety of the paper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, councillor McCall. Yeah, just noting that standing orders say that I think it's standing orders that if you have a pecuniary interest, you must leave the table if it's a public excluded matter, but if it's not, you need to pull your seat back from the table. You can still be in the same room. Thank you. And obviously an individual's opportunity to manage their own risks. Yep. So is there anyone else that wanted to declare anything at this point? Doesn't appear to be. Thank you. Okay, we are on to resolutions to exclude the public. I'll just get to that table. So yeah, there's a couple of matters there. One is the minutes of the publicly excluded council meeting on the 6th of December. And the other one is recommendations report of the independent hearings panel following deliberations on the proposed Otago Regional Policy Statement, as we've just talked about. Councillor Wilson, are you moving?
Yep.
Yep. Somebody want to second? Councillor Noon. All the reasons are recorded in the table there and the grounds for exclusion as well. Okay, I will put that then. Oh, Councillor Malcolm.
Yeah, Chair, I appreciate the reasoning behind going into public excluded, but at what stage and what will be the communication back to our public after this meeting vis-a-vis votings, divisions, what was put, what wasn't put, when does all that come out?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Malcolm. That's a good question, and I know we've actually got legal counsel Simon Anderson here as well. So, sorry, on the cuff, he's mentioned that he would be happy to answer any questions around that legally if we need as well, about what the process is and when things, depending what decisions are as well, what would happen next. So it might be appropriate, Simon, if you could just answer that question.
Yes, thank you, and happy to help off the cuff. So as I understand it, the questions around timing of release of information rather than whether the deliberation today is public excluded. So the timing is that if decisions are made to adopt recommendations that are in front of the council, the decisions and the reasons, which is the panel's report, are publicly notified immediately and will be available to the public immediately, both by being published on the council's website and the formal notification process. The deliberations, which is whatever discussion is had that leads to those decisions, would normally remain private. How long that is essentially an ongoing and theoretically constant assessment of whether that continues to need to be the case in terms of legoima. Usually that would be the case until appeals have been resolved. And the reason for that is that it's important that everybody around this table is able to deliberate freely and frankly and without fear of saying something which is a potential point of appeal later. And if you want me to go on, I can give an analogy. If you think about a court case, we'll say, for example, the Port Otago appeal, which went to the Supreme Court. So we had a hearing. It was in front of a panel of judges. The hearing itself, which is the hearings the panel have had in this situation, the hearing itself is public. Anybody can walk into that courtroom and listen to the argument and listen to the questions judges ask of counsel and so on. Anybody could, in fact, log in online and watch it. In fact, maybe some people at the council did, I don't know. But when the judges step out of that room and spend the months and months they spent deliberating, that deliberation stays private, so that they're free to say whatever they like. And it's only once they have finished that discussion and formulated the judgment and the reasons for it that the judgment and the reasons are made public. So that's an analogy of why we keep this stuff private.
We'll have a couple more questions, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Laws.
I appreciate the notification and thank you. The steps for it as a submitter is simply that they see it in the public advert, or do they, or maybe this is a staff question, are they contacted separately with a link to the decision?
Yes, they are.
They are, and that happens when?
Immediately after. Tomorrow.
Thank you, that's, yeah.
Subject to the decision made.
Absolutely.
Thanks. But yeah, sorry, I'll come back to that. Councillor Laws.
Sorry, I want to explore a little bit further your advice around why we would go into confidence at all.
Oh, excuse me, just your mic. Yeah, thank you.
Did you hear what I just said there?
Yes, I did.
You said about free and frank discussion, that was the excuse to make this a secret discussion. And then you said that it might be challenged at some stage in the case in the future, the decisions that are made or aspects of the decision that we make today. But isn't that true of just about every piece of legislation that's made in this country? Much more important than this, bylaws that local councils make, probably on about the same level of importance as this, plans that we devise, which are also decided upon in open, with open discussion amongst all governance members. Now, all of those can be legally challenged, have been in the past. So why would we make an exception for this?
Well, this is not an exception. Any deliberation which this council is undertaking, which involves a decision which is subject to appeal, has the benefit of the express provision in Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act. The reference from memory, if anyone wants it, is 48(1)(d) and 48(2). And that would also apply to deliberations on a plan. So it's
not compulsory, is it? It's a can, it's a may, it's not a will.
Yes, it is a choice for the council to make. It is an absolute exclusion, i.e. if that is the situation, the council can make that choice without further reason. It's not reliant on although I referred to free and frank discussions, it's not reliant on the free and frank exception elsewhere in the Act. And almost, well, I can't think of an example where the benefit of that provision has not been taken up by the council.
I'm struggling still here. So just because it's in the Act, which is a will, or it's not a will, it's a may, we've established that, and it can be challenged, so a lot of other stuff can be appealed that we make decisions on. I've just given those examples to you. Again, I come back to this. What's so special about this particular decision today in comparison to all the other examples I've just given you before?
Well, it's not just this decision today. It is any decision that is subject to appeal. And the reason that exception is provided and the reason why it is usually taken up is that the deliberations which lead to a decision and its reasons need to be able to be conducted without fear that the deliberations themselves will become appeal grounds in future. And whether people around this table agree with it or not, that is the law and that is the reason for the law. But you are absolutely right. It is a decision for this council to make, not a mandatory requirement that the deliberations be held in private.
But again, I go back.
Um,
no, but
thanks,
sorry, I don't
Rhonda.
think he's answered the question.
I think he has
No,
answered
he
the
hasn't answered the
question.
question.
We've got a decision to
No,
make
we
and
haven't
we
got
know
one.
that under the law,
In
that's
democracy.
our
Yet again,
opportunity
it's a
now.
secret.
Yep, someone who
Can I ask a slightly different question? Is there a difference between a local authority acting under the Local Government Act, making decisions in that scenario versus a local authority making decisions under the RMA when it comes to privilege and appeal rights, etc.?
For this exception, there's no distinction as to which legislation decisions being made under. The key thing which gives rise to it is that the decision is subject to appeal.
Okay, thank you. We do have a mover and a seconder, and we have a tight agenda today, so I'm going to put it all in
Can I
favour.
speak to the motion?
No,
You're joking.
we need to move on today.
So you're
We've got-
denying the right for elected members to speak on an issue of importance. Is that right?
No, I'm moving on because we need to get on today. You've had a chance to ask a lot of questions. Now you have a
Two.
chance to vote. All in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No, and I definitely want my objection recorded.
Okay.
My inability to speak on this motion as well.
Right.
So there are three of us who won.
I heard that we had Michael and Kevin and Gary who would like to be recorded against. Thank you. All right, we are now public excluded.
In order to help the conversation, I'm really happy to move now that the records of our meeting become public as soon as the decision is made